Hey, this is Mark Henry, author of Dancing with Energy, Healing Magic, and Mysticism. Here to talk to you more today about the occult and paranormal. Well, today we have an interesting topic, one with which I'm fairly fascinated with, and that is the subject of Lilith. I remember hearing the name Lilith for the first time in the 90s. I was watching the TV comedy Frasier. Frasier had an ex-wife named Lilith with whom he had kind of a contentious relationship with. He perceived her as cold and uncaring and manipulative, and part of the whole thing about Lilith was that he was making fun of the connotations and the meaning of the demon Lilith. So several years later, I read Libra Lilith by Donald Tyson, which is a pretty good book. It is a fiction book weaved in with nonfiction. For those of you who wanted to try to glean some interesting information to perhaps work with Lilith. So who exactly is Lilith? Lilith shows up in the Babylonian, Sumerian, Mesopotamian areas of the world and a lot of the writings, especially Jewish writings. One thing that the stories and the myths agree on is that Lilith has a very bad reputation. She's been very much maligned for ages. The big thing is that she kills mothers during childbirth and creates children's death. So when we look at the different writings, there's some in the Talmud, some in the Zohar, the Kabbalistic books. One of the most interesting writings about Lilith and the stories regarding Lilith is from the Alphabet of Ben Sirah. And I'll kind of relate the story. Anytime you see a story about Lilith, it's pretty colorful. So bear with me. So according to the alphabet, God created Adam. And Adam's first wife was not Eve, but Lilith. Adam and Lilith were living in the Garden of Eden, and the subject of sex came up. Adam wanted to have sex with Lilith in the missionary position with him on top, and she refused. She said something like, well, we're equal. I want to be on top. So this didn't go well with Adam. They had a big argument, probably, if I think about the first argument, that's ever happened between man and woman. Okay, so she said, you know what, Adam, I don't think you're the right guy for me. I'm going to go my own way. And then she yelled the ineffable name of God, which was a big no-no. That was like an act of rebellion. And as a result of knowing and applying and saying the name of God, she became supernatural in that instant, and she flew away. So Adam went to God, his father, and said, Daddy, Lilith ran away. Go and get her for me. And so he sent 3 angels. They finally caught up with her because she could fly at the Red Sea. And they went up to her and said, Lilith, you either go back to Adam, or we're going to drown you right here and now in the Red Sea. And she says, hell no. No pun intended. Well, they said, you either go back, or not only could that happen, but even worse consequences could occur. So she said, well, I'm not coming back. And they said, fine, okay. We got the message from God just now that we're not going to drown you, but, if you decide to go your own way, exert your independence, 100 of your babies will die a day. Talking about demon babies. So as a result of that, she said, well, you know what? I'm just going to do my own thing, and as a revenge for that particular punishment, I'm going to kill infants and mothers giving birth. And what she also does is that she decided that she would go, and even if 100 of her children would die, she would go and create much more. So she went and did her own thing, and that is kind of how the reputation began of her and her relationship with children and pregnant mothers. So, but that is not the only story regarding Lilith. There is one that says that she tried to seduce King Solomon by pretending to be the Queen of Sheba, if I remember correctly. And it almost worked, but one of King Solomon's court said, "King, I don't know if you noticed, but the Queen of Sheba has really hairy legs." That's a true story. Well, it's true as far as that's what is written. So that jig was up. King Solomon, he did, needed someone to tell him that, even though he was supposedly wise and intuitive, didn't know that Lilith almost outsmarted him, according to the story. So those are the two stories. I don't want to go into too much detail, but let's say that you are interested in doing research on Lilith and perhaps even doing magic with her. What is she typically used for? She's used for placing a curse. She's used for seduction magic. If you want to be more charming, if you want to improve your sex life, if you want to improve your self-confidence, Lilith is supposedly one particular entity to help you with those types of things. There was somebody who asked me about glamour magic a few weeks ago. Lilith is your girl for glamour magic. Now, traditional associations with Lilith are the following. Well, before I get into that, let me tell you how Lilith is usually perceived. She's usually perceived as tall, tan, sometimes red hair, sometimes black hair, a soothing, hypnotic voice, and green eyes. Now we know from, if you're somebody who deals with spirits and entities a lot, that is kind of a cookie cutter. People can perceive what they perceive, but if you're interested in what typically is associated with her, that is it. So let's say that you wanted to actually do some type of ritual and meet Lilith. Some of the offerings would be blood, which isn't uncommon if you're working with kind of the left-handed path, spirits of the dark side. Wine, and sexual offerings. So sexual offerings, when we talk about that, as you probably already know, would mean either allowing Lilith to engage your aura and I guess take your sexual energy, at least some of it, as an offering. Or it could mean that when you could pleasure yourself while you're doing a ritual with Lilith and use fluid and put it on her sigil. Colors, just like the hair colors, red and black. Red, I think, is a little bit more common. So think about red candles. Scents, cinnamon, frankincense. I believe there's a little bit more. Of course, you can find her sigil and things on the internet real easy. Now, as far as personal experiences, I have met Lilith a couple times in ritual. Sometimes when we go and we try to engage with a particular entity, there is what the books say, and then there is what you experience, which is not always the same, like I mentioned a little earlier. So when I read everything, sometimes it's kind of like, well, that may not be true. However, when I met Lilith, some of it was definitely true. How did I do the ritual? It was real simple. Red candle. I did the sigil, little frankincense oil on the sigil. I did little bit of meditation, try to tune in with her, call her, you know, type of things that you all kind of know how to do. And then she appeared, and she arrived quickly, forcefully. I was surprised of how strong of a presence I felt. And you, if you're sensitive to energy, you probably will feel it real strongly too. Around me, what I experienced was the seductive, the love, sexual type of feeling. It was almost like if you were really attracted, or maybe even fell in love for the first time, and you have those mix of energies and those feelings inside of you. When I was doing the ritual, that is what I felt in the ambient energy around me, which is pretty kind of it was very disarming, because I've never felt that around me, like in the atmosphere, but just kind of inside. So that was quite surprising. Her voice, I did find her voice to be very soothing when she spoke. I did find it to be very hypnotic. I understand now why in the past that she has been a little bit feared, and people have been really cautious, because it was a very kind of intense experience. So if you are interested in connecting with Lilith, those are some things to think about. I would say that the energy is intense enough that be sure that you're in a good place that day as far as your mind and your heart and everything are concerned, because I can only imagine that it could be destabilizing if you're not pretty much well integrated and fairly whole that day. So in any case, that is about all that I have about Lilith. Please subscribe and like. Let me know what you think as far as Lilith is concerned. I just asked with the comments, and this doesn't happen very often, but it did happen with my Hecate video. Please, with comments, please keep things constructive. If I get any comments that are ad hominem in nature, meaning, well, you're a male, you shouldn't talk about Lilith, you shouldn't talk about Hecate, because you have no understanding of it, because you're male. If I get any of that, I'm going to promptly delete it. You know, I'm here to share knowledge. I'm here to talk about various experiences, and that is it. So if you're interested, next week on my Patreon, I'm going to put a video that's going to walk y'all through one way that I do a ritual with Hecate. So I did the walkthrough with St. Expedite maybe a month ago, but I'm going to do it with Hecate. So if you're interested, I'm going to put a link to my Patreon page. You can subscribe to my Patreon, and you'll have access to that video when it comes out. So thank you so much, and I will see you all in a future video.